God, you're really making me drive back up the M1? No, I'm not kidding. Well, at least you got me a new company car. And thank God it's not a Rover. Of course, this isn't the late 90s anymore, and the repmobile is a thing of the past. But I think these mid-sized saloons are coming back in fashion, so I decided to have one. I didn't want a Mondeo or a Cavalier, because they weren't the thinking man's rep car. A BMW 3 Series is too overdone these days, and anything else on the market was either rotten, boring, or just too leggy with all those motorway miles. So then what did that leave me with? It was this, a 1996 Honda Accord. Although it may look Japanese with its Honda badges, it's actually about as authentic to its nationality as a Tesco meal deal sushi. What this car actually is a Rover 600, built right here in Blighty. Swindon to be precise. Just 30 miles from the Cowley plant, where its British cousin was assembled. A quick look on howmanyleft.com reveals that the Rover 600 actually sold better, which is weird because you'd think Honda, being the lead in the joint venture, would actually be the one with the better selling car. Meaning the 5th generation Accord is a strange phenomena where the base car had fewer sales than its financially desperate counterpart. But why? The Honda appealed to me a lot more. It has that sleek look, the rarity, and a range of smoother Japanese engines. Yet the sales reps never seemed to get it. And of course, that mattered. But don't listen to me, listen to this guy.
The thing about your company car is it's a very specific sign to everybody of exactly what level you've reached in the hierarchy of the company.
So what about mine then? How would I fare in the heated battle of company cars back in the 90s? Sadly, this one is just a fairly basic LS, or loser spec if your colleagues like a trim level based acronym. But you were still important.
Well, it's an I, and I means important these days.
Okay, so it's not quite the full SR spec, but let me show you around, because this thing more than makes up for it. NReg, so late 95, early 96. One of the first years for these actually. I think a few might have come on an M, but that was sort of the pre-facelift, so first of the facelift year, I believe. Now this has only done 68,000 miles, so it's very, very low mileage, but this one is effectively 2 owners from new. I think the thing that appealed to me the most with this car was the colour. I saw it on eBay and I was like, that is such a cool colour, I've got to have that. I actually really wanted any kind of Honda, to be fair, but when this popped up in possibly one of the best colours they offered them in, I had to have it. I just thought, that is coming home with me. Now it was in Oxford, and me and Tom, we went to go get it, and then we went to London afterwards, and we had to pay ULEZ, of course. And I did actually pay the wrong ULEZ. I bought the car, we picked it up, and we went on the website to pay the ULEZ, and at the time I didn't really know the reg, so I put in N636 NMR, and of course the government website doesn't tell you what model it is, it just said 1996 Honda. So I was like, right, yep, we paid 2 days for £35, and when we went to book the parking, I put in the same reg and it came up with a Civic. So I'd paid for someone's Civic for 2 days of ULEZ. So that meant I had to pay £70 to drive around London for 2 days because they wouldn't refund it. They said I was too stupid. They said I should have known the reg. Now the colour is maybe a little bit controversial, but I don't think this would have gone down very well in the company car park back in the 90s, but in 2025, green is really in fashion, and I think this looks really good. Inside, we have velour with some sort of weird 90s kind of disco pattern. It's kind of like a bluey, reddy, purpley, greeny square dotted all over the seat, but these seats are really lovely and comfy. I'm not a big fan of leather personally, and when something kind of luxurious comes along with a bit of cloth, that really ticks my boxes. I did actually buy this car blind. I didn't even see it, but I just saw it on the eBay advert and I thought, God, that looks good. Yeah, it looked like a good, well looked after example. It's come with lots of service history as well, but there are still things to do on it. Let me show you some of those. So the bottom of this door here, you can see someone's done a really crap repair on it. It's like a total different paint match there. And then at the bottom, even though it's had a repair, it's coming back through. These are famed for rusting. It's a Honda from the 90s. They didn't really rust-proof them very well. Even though they were made in the UK, you'd think that they'd rust-proof them, and of course they didn't, or not very well. But it has sort of stood the test of time. It's still here. A lot of these did just rot away, and I suppose the low mileage on this one has sort of helped it. but there is still some rust on it, which we're going to have to get sorted. But thankfully, it's not the end of the world. It's not terminal to the car. It can be fixed. While we're at this end, quite a lot of Accords do this. Little tiny bubble here, really not bad, and it's only slight and it's just coming through. But for the mileage of the car, I do actually want to get this sorted because it could be a really, really nice little classic when this is all done. The wheels, although they're filthy, are actually in really good condition. And then you can see here, it's just had new calipers on the rear, new discs, and I think on the front as well. So all the brakes have been gone through. Honda Motorsport sticker. I don't know why. It's not exactly a speed machine, this car. The 2 litre was basically the entry-level engine. It wasn't a Rover unit, it was actually a Honda unit, which was important to me when I was buying the car. I didn't want any kind of K-series or anything like that. They would have been far too unreliable for me, head gasket issues, etc. We've got the original August Motor Salisbury plate at the back. So it didn't travel far, this car. I bought it in Oxford, and Salisbury about an hour or so. So it was also assembled in Swindon, like I said, so it's really not travelled far until I brought it up here in York. Should we have a look in the boot? Because there's a few goodies in there. We've got a Honda Prelude gearbox. For whatever reason, the guy wanted to put a Honda Prelude 2.2 gearbox in, because apparently they're a little bit shorter ratio and stuff like that. We've also got, on this box, Rover parts. There you go. You can buy Rover parts for these, which, believe it or not, are actually more common than the Honda variant. So you're better off searching for Rover bits if you want something for this car. Check this out, proper 90s. We've got a pop-up aerial. This was probably one of the last cars to have that, if you think about it. I mean, back in the 70s and 80s, that was all the rage, but 90s, we kind of moved on. It'd be interesting to know what the last car with that was, but I imagine this wasn't far off. A little bit of grot around the arch again on this side, slightly better. So again, we're gonna do it because it can be done. We've got loads of period correct 90s stickers. We have actually got a sunroof as well, and it does work. I was really impressed when I pushed the button to that, and I thought, is that part going to be designed by Rover or Honda? And of course, Honda designed the sunroof, so we've got a working sunroof, which is brilliant. Everything feels quality on this car. When you open the doors, it just screams a well-made car. I'd be interested to see if the Rover's the same. Did they assemble them slightly worse? Don't know, but obviously Rover failed, and Honda are still possibly one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world. So did they scrimp out? Did they cobble them together while Honda made them properly? I don't know. Now the weird thing is, this 5th generation of Accord was actually sold in Japan as the Honda Accord Innova, which is weird because they did have the Accord over there. It's strange why they didn't just market it as that. And then if you went over to the US, it was an entirely different body. You couldn't buy this shape in the US. If you went into a Honda dealer and said, I want a 1996 Honda Accord, it would look nothing like this. There was obviously some sort of logistical thing to make them go build a separate body shape for the US market. Then things took a turn for the worst. We've got toilet roll. Why have I got that in my Honda? That's disgusting. Weird placement for a grab handle here. I don't really know why that's there, but speaking of weird placements, this is possibly one of the worst designed airbags you've ever seen. What an afterthought that is. You get this nice sleek dash and then someone's just gone, oh God, we need an airbag. We do have wood trim. It feels well built. Look at that. These are very good clean. There's a lot of just like little things inside it that are sort of freaking me out a bit. Shall we have a look under the engine to see this 2 litre? These are good clean, but the condition of that is lovely. It just looks like a car that's been well looked after. Decent battery as well. Just a bit of a clean, tidy up a few things, paint a few little things in here, and it'll be good as new, really. This car starts on the button every time. It's a really, really reliable thing. Check this out though. It has a Fiat 126 on it, which I thought was a bit of a sign because knowing me, I love my Polish Fiats. So when I saw that, I had no idea that was on the car when I bought it until I actually got to his house, saw that and I thought, it's a bit of a sign, isn't it? And while we're on the subject of unexpected things, perhaps this car's weirdest feature is its endless supply of light bulbs. 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 Honda bulbs. Bulb. Bulb. That's a bulb. Guess what? It's a bulb. Bulb. Actually not a bulb. A lot of bulbs. Moving on, let's take it for a drive. This car drives exactly how you'd expect it to. Everything works. Everything's where you'd want it to be. It's a car that just makes sense. It doesn't make a fuss of itself. It just works, I think that's the Honda effect, isn't it? Performance-wise, we have 130 brake horsepower from that 2 litre. It's a 16 valve as well, so it's quite a nippy little thing. But it's not a hair raiser. It's not something that really, really gets you going. Now, it handles nicely too. Again, doesn't bend physics, but for a car that's nearly 30 years old, it was never designed to be some sort of sports machine. It's actually quite firm, in a good way. It's not too firm, but you still have that little bit of cushy ride, which is what I like, and on the motorway you definitely feel that. But in the bends, it's not exactly too bad. And part of that is because of that double wishbone suspension that Honda raved on about in the 90s. Now, the problem with that was that the people who bought these cars, how can I put it, they were probably on their last car, and they didn't really care about double wishbone suspension. They cared if it had wood and comfy seats. Now, I would have liked diesel because the fuel economy on this is absolutely shocking. I dread to think what the 2.2 would have been like, but that's its Achilles heel, the fuel, and that is ultimately why it didn't sell. The Rover was actually more fuel efficient. Somehow these Hondas were a lot worse on fuel, so the fleet market didn't really see the appeal. It would have cost the company managers way too much to run them, and ultimately it didn't make sense. People went for the Rover instead. They sold a lot better than these, and it's ultimately down to that fuel economy. You've obviously read the title of this video. This is the Forgotten Accord, and it's because it was massively overshadowed by that 6th generation, the one later, the one you probably remember, because it came with the Type R. This one sort of just fell into that category of being a bit of a grandad car. If they'd have done a Type R version of this, I bet it would have really been well remembered. But because that next generation got the Type R, that was the one that everyone wanted. It's the one that's still around, and that's the one that ultimately sold better. As we nearly clock over 69,000, this car really hasn't done a lot of miles. But I have seen these on 200k, and they still seem absolutely fine. And that's why I bought this thing, because I wanted it as my winter daily, but it's just too nice. I wanted something that I didn't feel too much sympathy for, and this car, unfortunately, is just too nice. I can't winter daily it. It's a couple of steps away from being an amazing little car, and I wouldn't want to put it through a winter to make it a naff one. So I think it's just going to get done up and hopefully go to a good home. Now, that does remind me, we have got all the work to do. I'm going to get cracking on with that. We're going to give it a really, really good detail. We're going to get both the front and rear number plates remade in the original font. We'll get the rust sorted. We'll probably give it a service as well, and maybe an MOT, although it does have no advisories actually. It's just mainly cosmetic, and we'll get that sorted pretty quickly. But I want to do some trips in it. I want to enjoy it. I want to take it out a little bit more and get some use out of it. Not too much, because the mileage is something to watch, but I want to get some fun out of it. So hopefully join me again and you'll see this thing back on your screens.